The silence on Lewis Hamilton's Formula One future has been deafening since Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff described him as disillusioned in the wake of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix controversy. It appears Hamilton is genuinely yet to make a decision on returning to Formula One this year, pending the outcome of the FIA's review of events in the 2021 season finale, where Hamilton was denied an 8th title by the FIA's handling of a controversial late safety car. And the obvious conclusion is that Mercedes feels pressure needs to be kept on the FIA, which is yet to follow up its words with meaningful action. When Mercedes dropped its appeal against the steward's decision to reject its Abu Dhabi protest, which was based on 2 procedural infringements related to letting only 5 lapped cars unlap themselves and the timing of the restart, it did so on the basis that the FIA would take action. Initially, this was the preparation of a report that should be followed by a detailed analysis and clarification exercise for the future with all relevant parties. The FIA also promised that any identified meaningful feedback and conclusions be made before the beginning of the 2022 season. That happened on the 15th of December, 1 month ago. Since then, the FIA has said nothing meaningful beyond incoming President Mohammed Ben Sulayem saying he had reached out to Hamilton but not had a response and backing the process that had been launched. Even if it were unrealistic to expect this process to be complete by now, the FIA has offered no more details about the analysis, who is conducting it, and what the timeline is beyond the declaration that learnings will be implemented before the new season begins. So what's this got to do with Hamilton's silence and the supposed possibility he could quit? For a better understanding, we can look back to what Wolff said last month when talking about the reasons for Mercedes dropping its appeal.
Expect the Commission to not only come up with words, but actually but with actions. And we will hold them accountable for the actions. Because we cannot continue in a sport that is meant to be sport followed by entertainment and not the other way around, that we are held ransom by ad hoc decisions in every field, be it technical or sporting. And therefore, there needs to be clear measures in place before the start of the season, so every driver, every team, and the fans understand what's on and what is not on.
Mercedes is determined to see tangible action. At the bare minimum, it needs to be convinced that the analysis the FIA has undertaken is a serious one, with a public outlining of the how and why of the process laid out. That's the first bar that the FIA always had to clear, and it hasn't done so yet. It's also been clear since Abu Dhabi that FIA race director Michael Massey's position is untenable, so it's no surprise that replacing him is widely considered to be among the demands made by Mercedes. It's also been suggested that Mercedes wants to see FIA head of single-seater matters Nicolas Tombazis go as well. This is plausible given the team's anger about the 4 small but significant aerodynamic rule changes that Mercedes feels were brought in for 2021 to curb its dominance. That's one of the ad hoc decisions that Wolff referred to. Part of Hamilton's relevance here is the role he can play in Mercedes holding the FIA to account. He is F1's biggest star with a massive global reach, and Hamilton quitting would have a seismic impact. Yes, the Grand Prix world would continue to turn, and it has a new generation of stars ready to fill the void, but the damage would be enormous. To lose a superstar at some point is an inevitable blow because age catches up with everyone, but to do so because they have no confidence in the governance and the legitimacy of the sport is completely different. Not only would it be embarrassing for F1, but it would have tangible commercial impacts and cost it fans. The possibility of Hamilton walking away from F1 because of his disillusionment at what happened in Abu Dhabi and because of an inadequate response from the powers that be is the ultimate sword of Damocles. But the strength of Hamilton's silence depends on how seriously the FIA takes the possibility of him really stopping. For a threat to be genuinely powerful, you have to believe that whoever is making it is serious. Hamilton signalled his intention to compete in F1 in 2022 and 23 by signing a new contract last year, so we know he wanted to continue. But he's also known to be deeply upset with what happened in Abu Dhabi. Had he decided to quit in anger, we would know about it already. The implied threat of quitting is so powerful because it's not a question of whether he wants to or not, but whether he's willing to do so if the FIA's response is unsatisfactory. Mercedes and Hamilton will be closely aligned on this and doubtless have discussed this strategy. It's not about changing the result of the 2021 championship because that ship sailed a month ago. Instead, it's about something far more important: improving the governance of F1 and tackling what has become a growing problem with officiating over the last couple of years. Hamilton's silence amid all this has been interpreted by some as the actions of a sore loser, accompanied by inevitable criticisms and advice that he should just accept what happened and move on, or come back stronger. But those who believe that underestimate the severity of what happened in Abu Dhabi and have also misidentified who is responsible for bringing closure to this matter. It would be unwise for the FIA itself to underestimate any anger or resentment at play here. This is the self-styled pinnacle of motorsport, and it's the responsibility of the FIA to prove to Hamilton that it's up to that standard. F1 as a whole needs to move on from this incident at some point, but moving on doesn't mean sweeping the matter aside and letting F1 get on with its 2022 season. It means the FIA addressing its shortcomings, Hamilton trusting the system, and F1 recovering from the damage inflicted by the 2021 finale. Hamilton and Mercedes have made their position clear, but the FIA remains passive on this issue, so Hamilton walking away remains in play as a possible outcome. Anyone with F1 memories or knowledge of pre-season 1990 may be feeling a sense of déjà vu around this FIA standoff. Back then, Ayrton Senna had said publicly that he felt the governing body had manipulated the outcome of his 1989 world title battle with Alain Prost. At the infamous Suzuka 89 title decider, the McLarens of Prost and Senna collided on the approach to the final chicane. Prost mistakenly believed his suspension was damaged and climbed out of what was later discovered to be a perfectly healthy car. Senna, with the help of marshals, extricated his car from the mess, bump-started it in the runoff area and rejoined the track from there, missing out the chicane. After a pit stop to replace the damaged nose, he caught and passed the Benetton of race leader Alessandro Nannini and won the race on the road. But he was disqualified for rejoining via a shortcut which handed the title to Prost, because with one race left, Senna could no longer overcome his points deficit. 2 weeks later, a still furious Senna gave a press conference in Brazil in which he said it was clear that political and economic pressure groups manipulated behind the scenes to make Prost world champion. He specifically included FIA President Jean-Marie Balestre in this accusation, whether out of patriotism, friendship, or for other reasons I prefer not to mention. An outraged Balestre summoned Senna and McLaren boss Ron Dennis to Paris to appear before the World Motorsport Council, with Senna accused of being in breach of the sporting code by a deed which inflicted moral injury and loss on the FIA, FIA, their members or executive officers. The council voted to refuse Senna's application for his 1990 racing licence until an apology was issued. In the meantime, McLaren's two-car entry for the 1990 World Championship was returned, with Balestre insisting the entry would be refused as long as there was no apology. Senna, meanwhile, was back in Brazil and not making any comments, though he was in constant touch with Dennis by phone. As negotiations went on behind the scenes, the McLaren entry was accepted, with Gerhard Berger in one car, but the other for a driver yet to be named, and subsequently amended to the team's test driver Jonathan Palmer. Balestre then insisted he personally had not demanded an apology. Things were thawing, and on the eve of the first race of the season, Senna was quoted in a FIA statement as saying he'd concluded from the World Council meeting that no pressure group of the president had influenced the decisions regarding the outcome of the championship. Senna's licence was granted and McLaren's entry for him accepted, but no one was really buying that the statement reflected Senna's true belief. Asked at the first race if he felt bitter about the matter, Senna made a lengthy pause before saying, "Perhaps my silence speaks for itself." Right now, Hamilton may well feel the same, but a similar outcome would be unjust. It's not Hamilton's responsibility to turn the other cheek, back down or apologise, and it's not his silence since December that's a problem, it's the FIA's.